entertaining podcasts I listen to. I don't listen to many. That one, Francine, is a different point of view. It's a female point of view, but someone who's been through the hardcore wars.
Yes.
So what Francine has to say to me matters and is important. And there are two guys up in New York, Monte and the Pharaoh.
Mm-hmm.
I find them hugely entertaining. I find them fun to listen to. But those three are the only three podcasts really other than, the PW Insider stuff that I listen to at all.
Big Ron Shaw here, the Earl of Upsets, telling you to watch my friends, Monte and the Pharaoh, on Long Island's #1 wrestling podcast show, and soon to be the world's #1 wrestling podcast show. That is going to be a big upset.
The Monte and the Pharaoh Show is brought to you by...
Because wine is your second favorite four-letter word. California wine, New York attitude. Good fucking wine.
Yeah.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast. Monte and the Pharaoh, only seen here out of Long Island, as we're still working on our new things, Jimmy, our new studio, but we're still hitting home runs because we've got a legend on the line right here. Hollywood John Tatum. It's been a long time, sir. Been begging you to come on, and you are finally here. So thank you from both of us for taking the time out of your busy schedule, sir.
Not so busy, but you're welcome.
Listen, Jimmy, I was talking to him before the show. The guy is like a scratch golfer, man. Are you kidding me at this point?
You're lying.
What do you mean?
Do not lie to people. I never said I was a scratch golfer.
I said you're a scratch golfer.
Others have said it, but they're mistaken. I'm not a scratch golfer, but I've been playing my whole life, so I'm okay.
Did I just fuck up your deal? What do you go to the courses and rip people off, like act like you can't play and you smoke them for like hundreds of dollars?
You know, there's been times in my life that has been a situation that has actually fed me. So, I mean, to be honest, I'm very thankful. My father was not a touring golf professional, but a club professional, and had me young. And so I grew up in golf, and was fortunate enough to go to college on a golf scholarship, and golf's been very good to me. Big part of my life. My new goal is to shoot my age. So
it's a pretty good goal. That's a pretty good goal, John. I'd have to say.
It's a good goal, but I ain't close.
Well, you still got time. As you get older, then you get closer to that score anyway, right? So
right.
Either which way, you're going to squeeze it, right?
There's only one good side. And yeah, I pray I get older. But we'll see. I have fun. It's golf's a beautiful game. It introduces you to a lot of beautiful people. Influential people. I hate to say that, but yeah. But golf's just a beautiful thing. I got my son is having my first grandchild, and I just cannot wait to break him into this game of golf. And maybe wrestling, as good as it's gotten, who knows? I wish I would have taught my son, but it just was a time when I said, I probably don't want my son to do this. Now, he's kicking me in my ass saying, Dad, why didn't you teach me how to wrestle?
Mm.
You know, but I didn't. I messed up.
At least they let you on the golf course, Mike. They don't even let me on the golf course, so you guys are entitled as far as I'm concerned.
I got to ask you, John, from going from a golf scholarship, right? Then you go to pro wrestling. How do you make that transition? And then I got to be fair with this. What do your parents say, right? They're thinking they're breeding a professional golfer, and it turns out to be a professional wrestler. I mean, how do you get yourself out of that mess?
Great question. My parents had wonderful parents. Did not approve of it. Did not want me to do that. I guess they saw that wrestling was my true, because in order to be a good wrestler or even to make it in the wrestling business, you've got to want to do this when you're a young child, and you got to think about it when you're in bed and think about finishes and wrestling. Like I used to think about wrestling Dusty Rhodes, and Dusty Rhodes would be my pillow, and I would wrestle it every night and put myself to sleep. And I just knew I was going to be a wrestler. So it really didn't matter what my parents thought. When you're young, you think, oh, they don't know what they're talking about anyway. Although they did. They were right, and I was wrong. And I chose wrestling, which was very easy for me because I'd wanted to do that my whole life. And I had the blessing of growing up with Michael Hayes. And then when I wanted to be a wrestler, living with Michael Hayes and having Michael Hayes and Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts personally teach me. One of Terry Gordy's cousins, Jimmy Powell, wonderful, beautiful guy. Jimmy put a ring up in his backyard, and he kind of got into, we were the same age, and Terry and Buddy Michael in his backyard would teach us how to wrestle. And that's, I went from golf to growing up wanting to be a wrestler to living with Michael Hayes in Atlanta, Georgia, and being taught by him, Terry Gordy and Buddy Roberts at Jimmy Pa's backyard, teaching me hour after hour, beating my ass hour after hour, which, man, I'm so thankful for that, what they gave to me. But I couldn't have done it without them. I need to shut up. I'm sorry I had to keep running my mouth.
No, you're
No,
good.
you're
Just keep.
perfectly good. John, how much did the Freebirds spill into your gimmick? You had a very flamboyant deal in the ring. How much did that inspire your career?
Well, great question again. I wanted to be like Terry Gordy, but that's impossible. So I stole from Terry Gordy, and Terry, Terry and Michael and Buddy, they always watched me from the curtain, and I'd come back and they'd tell me shit. And Terry would tell me the most, and Terry would tell me the same thing. And it would be to be more like him. And that was impossible for me. I couldn't be, he wanted me to sell a little bit, but when I came back or when I got my heat, he wanted me to get more heat and be more powerful. Power bombs, blah, blah, which wasn't possible for me. I wasn't a power guy like him. I wanted to be. I stole a lot of shit from Terry Gordy. And Terry gave me a lot of stuff. Some of the best 45-minute wrestling matches I've had have been with Terry Gordy when I was young. And we would go out and wrestle for 45 minutes, and he would beat my ass, and he would make me fight back. And I'm just so thankful for those times. And of course, Michael, I didn't spend as much time with Terry as I did Michael. I grew up with Michael. So Terry was very special to me. Michael was my brother. So I couldn't have been in the wrestling business without either one of those guys. Or Jimmy Powell, who gave up his backyard. And Claire Perry, who Michael was married to, his first wife, that let me move in their home while they were teaching me how to wrestle. Those are things.
John,
Sorry.
Why do you think, Mike? I got to ask him while I have him here. Why do you think that Michael Hayes? This is just my opinion as a fan back in those days. How is it that Michael Hayes was never a world champion? I feel that he had everything.
Hey, I can answer that easily.
Okay.
There's a line there. Some guys need a championship, and some guys don't.
Well, he didn't need it. I agree
If
with
that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
You're. I don't know how to come across to your audience so they understand. I know you understand, but there's a fine line there. Anyway.
Do you think that he could have been trusted with the belt? I know that it's all about. There's a lot of things that go into it.
I feel you, and I don't think it was about that.
Okay.
I was more that situation. Actually, both of us. I'm not going to lie. We're both guilty of that. What you're insinuating. Yes, we're both guilty. We both crossed the line too much. Yes. But as far as trusting Michael to have a title, that was not, it was never for 1 second was it ever talked about Michael holding any title. Michael,
fair enough.
Freebirds didn't need a title. They used titles with the Von Erichs, 6-man titles or whatever they would call them. They would use them, but they didn't need them.
True.
Yeah, I love Ric Flair. He didn't need the title, but he made it great. There's exceptions, but for the most part in the business, if you needed a title, the boss is kind of throwing you a crutch, maybe. I don't know if, I don't know if you needed it. I never I never personally thought about him or thought about, for 1 second, that if I was the champion, I could do better. I could make more money. That never crossed my mind. I always went to work, did what my bosses, because I was young in the business. I didn't come in there knowing everything. I went from being taught to jumped into big time. I did what I was told every night. I was told by Fritz Von Erich, Ken Mantell, Dusty Rhodes. Those are the people that told me what to do every night. I didn't know, they didn't ask me what my ideas were, and I honestly didn't have any. They didn't ask me. I did 100% of what I did was what they told me to do. I never said I want Missy Hyatt to be in the business with me. That never happened. They approached me with it. I, from day one till the end, did exactly what Ken Mantell, Fritz Von Erich, Jerry Jarrett, what all of them told me to do. I did it.
So, John, let me ask you this: because you said you grew up thinking about wrestling Dusty Rhodes, so in a lot of ways you're a historian. So here you are walking into one of the at the time WCCW, which could almost challenge the WWF at some point. You walk into the world famous Sportatorium. What is that feeling like that you're working for this organization? And share your thoughts about working for WCCW and Fritz Von Erich.
Well, you're moving from Pensacola, Florida, to living with Michael Sites in Atlanta, Georgia, to spending a few months training, to, because you knew the Freebirds, you get booked independently 3 days a week, no TV, some, but you're thrown in from training in a backyard to independent wrestling, from independent wrestling for a few months. You're given the opportunity from your few months of doing independent, you're given the opportunity exactly how it happened for me. I was given the opportunity straight from independent to and getting approval from the Freebirds. Got feedback enough to go within months to go. They asked, or Michael asked Don Owens to give me a full-time job out in Portland, Oregon. So I accepted the job straight out of independent. I'm going to go to work for Don Owens in Portland, Oregon. Well, Michael and Dusty Rhodes were, from day one, great buddies. Dusty was the booker in North Carolina and was running the Omni, and I was going from Atlanta, Georgia to Portland, Oregon, and Michael Hayes called Dusty Rhodes and said, "Hey, my cousin Franklin Hayes is passing through to go to work for Don Owens. Can you give him something for a night to make a little gas money?" Absolutely. So I'm going from Atlanta, Georgia to Portland, Oregon in my vehicle, loaded up. And on the way, I was stopping by wrestling in the Omni for Dusty Rhodes. And I'm wrestling Magnum TA on television.
By the way.
Yeah.
Hello.
You know, and it wouldn't have mattered one way or the other.
Right.
Actually, what happened was I'm in the Omni, I'm in the dressing room, I'm shitting myself, of course. Magnum walks into the dressing room. He's beating everybody on TV every week with his 10-second belly to back suplex. So I'm in the Omni and I'm on TV. I know that thing's coming. So he's in the dressing room and he goes, hey, I introduced himself, I'm Magnum T.I. I'm John. He goes, I hear you were trained by the Freebirds and you're Michael's cousin. He goes, I've been beating everybody like in 15 seconds on TV. How about you and I go out there and we have a match? And I was like, okay. And he gave me the finish, which of course is a belly to back. But he told me we could have a match. So I went out there in the Omni, shaking like a leaf, went out and thank gosh for Magnum TA. We had a wonderful match. He gave me so much. Anyway, long story short, I had my match. He beats me with a belly to back after 15 minutes in the Omni. So I get to my dressing room, and the way the Omni is there, it's old, in the old showers. And I got a chair, and I'm sitting in the showers. Nobody else is around. The dressing room's huge. And I'm sitting in the showers, and I'm sitting in a chair, folding chair, and I'm vomiting. Boom, boom, boom. Just can't believe what happened. And I'm vomiting, sick to my stomach, because I poured my heart and soul out. Magnum gave me so much. I'm sitting there vomiting, and I look up, and Dusty Rhodes is standing in the shower entrance. Was the same size as him. And he's standing in the shower entrance. And he goes, you okay? And I said, yeah, man. He goes, man, I got to tell you. He goes, I seen something in you, brother, that I ain't, very few got what you got. And he goes, I got to tell you, I'm very impressed. The only thing I don't like is I don't like your name. I don't like Franklin Hayes. I like Hollywood John Tatum. I think that'd be your name. I would like you to be in my office in Charlotte, North Carolina tomorrow morning to sign a contract with the NWA.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, and I said, Dusty, I'm on my way to Portland, Oregon. Michael got me a job with Dono, and he goes, I know all about that, baby. Don't worry about it. See you in my office tomorrow morning. So I was in Dusty Rhodes, Jimmy Crockett's office, and signed a contract. A couple months later, I was independent. Now I'm signing a contract where Ric Flair and Wahoo McDaniel and all these guys, Sting, are signing contracts, and I'm signing a contract. So I signed the contract. Everything's great, going good. Get to hang with Flair a little bit, get to meet him, get to know him. Well, I get a phone call about 2 months into the deal of my contract. Get a phone call from Michael Hayes and Ken Mantell and Fritz Von Erich in Texas. And they said, there's a spot opening up. for you. Here, this is what we'll pay you. We would love to have you. And I said, man, I just signed a contract with Dusty Rhodes. I can't. And they were messing with me. Everything was set up before. They knew it all ahead of time. They effed with me and told me, man, you're going to have to go tell Dusty you want out of that contract. Good luck. Good luck. We're going to offer you this. Come here. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And Dusty made me do the whole thing. All of them made me come to the office. Dusty made me ask to get out of my contract. And he effed with me and said no. But he was messing with me. They all were messing with me. So that's how I got into the business. I went from the shit house to the penthouse real fast. I was fortunate to have and work real fast. I mean, even when I worked with independent, I worked with guys like Dominic DeNucci, you know, just true. And when I came into the business outside of independent, I immediately started working with awesome teachers, Scott Casey, Missing Link. I learned, I mean, just those two guys alone taught me so much working with them night after night. And a lot of Hollywood was what they taught me. I mean, I didn't know. You know, wrestling takes a long time. You just can't be a money-making wrestler. It just, I mean, there's just like in singing and movies, everything. There are exceptions. It does happen. There's two superstars, but to be a wrestler and make money, it takes a long time. It takes a lot of work, a lot of application, and it's a true art. It's a true art.
John, what can you tell us about what were the Von Erichs like behind the scenes? Obviously, you're with the Freebirds, and no one's a bigger fan of the Von Erichs than my partner here, Mike. Well, can you fill us in on what was it like to be around that amazing family behind the scenes? What were they like as people?
Well, I 100% agree with Mike. They were great people to work with, great people to know. I have, just like anybody else, I have nothing negative to say about them. They treated me like family. They treated everybody like family. It was almost like Fritz von Erich's territory when I was in it at that time, because, you know, there's Crockett and AWA. Everybody wanted to come here or come to work for Fritz. And Fritz had to tell so many people no, because we worked on such a small roster. We didn't have that deep roster like all these other companies did. And we kind of, the boys didn't dislike us, but, you know, we were like the spoiled guys that got to be home because the Von Erichs, they were the owners. They wanted to be home every night by midnight. They did not want to stretch out any further where they couldn't wrestle and be home by midnight. So, and I mean, that hurt us, but that was the way it was. made a lot of money. It was fun. The Von Erichs were beautiful people. I wished I could say one. I mean, I have zero things to say negative about the Von Erich family.
Well, John, let me ask you this though. Considering how great WCCW was at that time, and you guys were challenging for being the premier wrestling organization on a professional level, considering the tragedy that had happened with the boys, on a professional level, were you angry with maybe Fritz or even the boys that they couldn't control whatever was happening, and they're the reason, in the end, WCCW crumbled?
Not for 1 second. No. I mean, especially wrestling, there's shit you just can't do anything about. Those kids, I wish I could, all of us wish we could have done something or said something. And they were so loving and receiving and would have listened, so all of us kick ourselves in the ass and go, why didn't I spend, just because Kerry was a little bit of a cocky asshole, why didn't I spend a little more time? Why didn't I get to know him a little better? And at that time, a big difference was we were kayfabe, deep kayfabe. Maybe we were the most laxed of all territories, but you couldn't really be friends with the Von Erichs. So the only time you really got to know them was working with them every day at work. Anyway, you had to hide it. There was, you couldn't be seen talking to a Von Erich. It just wasn't kosher in my time. Was not acceptable. It was, especially when you worked for people like Bill Watts, it was finable. They would take your money out of your check for stupid things like that. I didn't mean to say stupid things like that. I didn't mean the things we did were stupid because we associated with each other. But at that time, I couldn't get to know the Von Erichs other than their work. Outside of that, it was not acceptable. If we saw each other in public in Texas, we would have to start a fight in public. And that's why they had bodyguards. They had Bill and can't think of the other guy. The Von Erichs had their own bodyguards.
Bill Colville.
Yeah, great guys.
We had him on the show. Great guy.
Very professional. Took care of the Von Erichs, and they took care of the heels too. Like, if Kerry was going to be somewhere, Bill, they would let you know. Don't be there. They're going to be there. So you knew. You didn't want to start crap for free. We're in a business. We don't want to fart around, do interviews at each other.
So John, did you ever come across a situation where you guys crossed paths and you had to do something in public to keep up kayfabe?
Not physically. Not if it wasn't pre-planned. I have done stuff pre-planned. Yes, but no, I would not. No, we just knew not to. That kayfabe was kayfabe. That's what our bosses wanted, And that's what we did. The Von Erichs, like I say, it was a little more laxed with them because they were the owners. And if they wanted to be your friend, if you were kayfabe, not, blah, blah, it didn't matter. They owned the damn thing. The Jarretts, I loved working for Jerry Jarrett and Lawler and Dundee. Great bosses. But they were very kayfabe. It was very, I didn't get fined, or I don't recall getting fined for that, breaking kayfabe, which I've done. I'm guilty. I love other guys in my business.
Yeah.
They were all beautiful people.
With the Iron Claw coming out, well, a couple of years ago now, right, Jimmy?
Yeah.
They really painted Fritz as being this taskmaster that drove the boys to their demise. What was Fritz von Erich to you as a promoter and even maybe as a father figure?
I first off, I didn't see the movie. And especially after hearing the reviews, I don't want to be disappointed, but I don't know. All I can say is Fritz was the owner. Fritz had great ideas. Fritz hired great people around him. His sons, we all could have been rich, it all could have been different. They were the nucleus of the whole thing. I kind of caught it not towards the end. I didn't even when I came in, the Freebird Von Erich thing was tailing off, and it kind of broken off into Iceman and Buddy Roberts, and it wasn't so much the Von Erichs and the Freebirds when I got here, kind of done. And that was the best of the times, I hate to say, after I got here, it got worse.
John, any thoughts
Better.
on any thoughts on, in my personal opinion, the greatest Von Erich of them all? Any thoughts on David?
You have great questions. You have great thoughts. I can't argue with anything you say. He was of course, the leader. He was just a great guy. All of them were great. Even Chris. I shouldn't say even Chris and Mike, which, we were a little more in the wrestling business, a little closer together than, say, me and David and Kerry and Kevin. I was closer to Chris and Mike because we were closer in age, or in wrestling age. We were a little closer. But they were all, I just can't say enough how sweet, and it's said over and over how sad it is, so it's stupid for me to say that. I never saw it coming. I don't think any of us ever saw it coming. I've been around a lot of drugs and a lot of stuff that pulls you down in life, but they were really never into that stuff that brought them down that far. They weren't perfect. as none of us were. But they were such sweet, good guys that I don't know if they'd have found the Lord, you know, and been what Fritz wanted them to be. Had they really been that? Phew.
What were your thoughts? What were your thoughts? I'm sorry, John. What were your thoughts when Vince McMahon eventually overtook everybody? Because when you say earlier that they wanted to be home by midnight, and the more guests we've had on over the years on this show, when we learned that Tommy Rich wanted to stay in the Atlanta area, are you surprised at all that Vince McMahon, who had a global vision, won this whole war at the end of the day?
Well, when the whole thing started happening, I was still in the business and not a fixture, you know. I mean, I had a little. Anyway, my situation personally with Vince was when I saw him start taking over, personally, I thought it was laughable. And I was mistaken. I was mistaken. And I let him know. And you know Vince McMahon. And by me saying, I'm really not interested in your company, it's kind of laughable to me. And that gets back to him. There was never a future for me with Vince McMahon. I fucked up. I should have never said that, done that. I messed it up for Missy. I messed it up for myself. But right there when I was happening and I thought I was going to be somebody in that business, I truly thought his stuff I was watching was laughable. I was wrong.
John, let's go a hard right. I want to bring up your relationship with Missy Hyatt, both in wrestling and then how does it become a personal relationship? Can you discuss that a little bit?
Well, I moved to Atlanta from Pensacola to be moved in with Michael, and while I was there and they were teaching me and I started trying to get bookings for independent shows, I was hooked up with a guy. His name was General Homer Odell. Didn't know him from Adam's House Cat. Him and Missy Hyatt somehow related. In the independent scene, General Homer Odell was my manager. Missy Hyatt lived and worked in Atlanta, Georgia, where I lived training to wrestle, and worked with General Homer Odell. Well, Missy, you know, I can't say specifically what happened, but through the general, I met Missy, and we became boyfriend and girlfriend, or, you know, I was fortunate enough to, at that time, and still today, fortunate enough to be hooked up with one of the most beautiful women on the planet. So I was all in.
Yeah, I got to tell you, Mr. Tatum, that kind of does suck a little bit, right? When you hook up with someone that hot, it's like, where do you go from there if it ends, right?
Dude, I got a mirror. I'm not the most beautiful guy on the planet.
I don't know, bro. You've done pretty good for yourself, but go ahead.
You look pretty good back in the day. What are you talking about?
I've been blessed with some of the most beautiful women. I don't know how. I've been married twice to, gosh, they were prettier than Missy, or I wouldn't have married them.
Yeah.
I just stayed with Missy. But anyway, that's a long another story. But
Well, I wanted to ask you about that, John. So you guys are in a professional relationship and a personal relationship, right? And Jimmy and I, my partner, Jimmy, we always discuss about wrestling being this microcosm, but this like intertwined family. You were even speaking about that, about the Von Erichs. My question is to you, and again, we're just fans. So I don't know the story, but from what we heard, she ended up becoming in a relationship with hot stuff Eddie Gilbert and then ended up leaving. If that is true, like, how did that affect you on a professional basis? Because you were probably working with Eddie Gilbert at the time. So how does that make you feel?
well,
And if I'm wrong, correct me. So
no, you're 100% right. I mean, I can take the long way, the short way, but I mean, specifically, what do you want to? I mean,
well,
I-
you're in a business relationship with Missy. You're in a personal relationship with Missy, and you're in a professional relationship with Eddie. That something obviously goes on behind your back, I'm assuming, and then the breakup happens. So I want to know what your feelings are there personally and professionally, and how do you get through
okay.
that?
Well, at that time, I'd been together with Missy long enough that my profession, we were both at a point where she knew she was good and I knew I was good. Eddie was the boss, um, deservingly so. And, the Missy thing with Eddie happened and I accepted it and everything was cool. It all went down, which I can break down for you. But the bottom line is Eddie is the boss for Bill Watts. Well, here I am going from the middle of the card with Missy. Now I'm jumping to main event with Eddie Gilbert in a fight with over the separation with Missy. Well, that was fresh. And me and Eddie and Missy all agreed with it and loved it. And it was fresh. And we did good money for a week or two. We did good money, not great like I thought, but it was kind of, the people were acting kind of funny to it. They didn't know whether to root for Eddie, whether to who. Anyway, they didn't know who was the heel, who was the baby face. But it was just catching hold where it was actually making a little money. And in the wrestling business, if you can't make people pay money to come see you, your check is small. Well, it just got where people were paying attention because of TV and because of Eddie's mastery. Eddie and I were, booked against each other, with Missy not deciding who she wants to be with, type thing. But that worked real well. And I really, here you got the booker, the boss. He wants your girl. You kind of don't care about losing your girl. You're in a great spot with her new boyfriend, who's the booker, and people are going to really dig this. So I was 100% in. Eddie was first class. Missy was first class. Both of them were. You said the word behind my back.
John,
They didn't.
I find I'm sorry, John. I find this amazing. To me, I'm trying to put myself in the position. A public figure is a public figure, no matter what. Especially nowadays, everybody can be a public figure. They want to have a show. I understand all of that, but at the time that this happens, you got to be pissed off. I would have been pissed off. So somehow this translates from, if you weren't pissed off, I'm amazed at that, first of all. But
100.
if you were pissed off, how do you go
You're
from how do you go from that? It's like a private thing, and then it becomes a public angle. How do you really go through all the emotions? Did you have any, or is this just business? At the end of the day,
it just got to the point, Missy and my relationship. I was involved in other things. Apparently, she was. We were both grown-ups. There was no cursing, slinging, no bad. I mean, of course, we could tell a story and put it in our books, but there's no story to tell. They were first class about it. Eddie was first class. Great guy. Missy was first class. They didn't do sneaky shit behind my back. They kind of let me know that, hey, we want to do sneaky shit behind your back.
so the Gucci bag was not a surprise. I'm just asking as a fan.
You know, I was not, because on being on TV with Missy Hyatt, and for some reason, girls, especially strippers, for some reason, who watched Missy Hyatt and myself on television, for some reason, they wanted to have sex with me. I don't know if it was to piss her off, or thought I was going to tell, or whatever, but they were actually these beautiful high dollar strippers. They were having sex with me regularly, just because I was on TV with Missy Hyatt.
Loving it.
You know, hey, I'm being honest. I had been so blessed because of her to be with women in my life I could have never been with. I mean, I feel like I was talented. I come from a talented family, but never talented enough to have been blessed with the beautiful women I've been blessed with. I'm just, like everybody says, you outkicked your coverage, brother. Hey,
When did it do that, brother? That's it, right?
hey, I've just been blessed. I hate to say the word fuck, but I fucked up 2 great marriages, 2 great women, 100% my fault with both of them. You know, can't blame it on the business. Got nothing to blame it on but myself.
John, let me ask you this on a personal level. Have you said that to both these women? I mean, you're kind of revealing this on the show. Have you said to them, "Hey, I'm sorry for what happened"?
I have, but I don't think they give a shit.
Jeez.
Hey, I think there's times you have a little money and you do better than you should because you got a little money. And I let that get the best of me. Like the guy said, I'll keep my coverage. I should have looked for women with more inside and not looks. But I was young and dumb, and I did it. I messed up.
Well, John, you know what? For whatever it's worth, you know what? No one's perfect, and if they don't give a shit that you're sorry, then who gives a shit what they think anyway? I'm not sorry, Mike, just for the record. Oh, I'm getting personal. Never mind.
Well, I kind of feel like, I don't know how long we've been talking, but I feel like I'm doing all the talking. And I don't know enough about your show to know if I should shut the fuck up and
Dude, people are here to hear John Tatum. They're not here to listen to Monte The Pharaoh. We have
You're
plenty of time
fine.
to speak, man. You're doing
You're
great.
fine.
Let me roll it into this. Can you share your relationship with Chris Adams and what kind, again, what the dark side of the ring. I don't know if you watch any of this stuff, but Chris Adams was pretty painted out to be some kind of like maniac. His eyes would turn red and he would go crazy. I mean, what was Chris Adams like?
Great question. I just signed a deal with Vice to do a show about Missy. So I love Vice, and I'm looking forward to working with them. But Chris Adams, because he's not here, I don't want to say anything negative. I personally did not like Chris Adams. I don't know if it was because of drugs and alcohol made him act different, because he acted different in different times. But it was enough bad times with Chris and verbal abuse and bullying. I just was not into his scene. I love Gino, but I did not like Chris. I'm sorry.
No, that you're just sharing your feelings. Let me ask you this. You mentioned Gino. The stories that have gone around, whether he OD'd or maybe there was something else involved. Again, I obviously you probably don't know, but what were your thoughts about that situation? Did you think there was foul play in the death of Gino Hernandez?
I certainly don't know about the foul play part. Anything's possible with that. But as far as on a day-to-day knowing Gino, Gino's car, only two people fit inside of it. And Gino Hernandez drove his Porsche, unless we flew. Gino Hernandez drove his Porsche 100% of the time. Somebody was riding with him. Fortunately and unfortunately, I had some opportunities. Gino was one of a kind. The most memorable thing about him is his driving and the speeds he drove. That was the most memorable. That and his girlfriend. He had a badass girlfriend, Jennifer. She's hot.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, man. You guys are challenging each other.
Single.
That's for sure.
He lives in Texas.
Damn.
Imagine that. Yeah, and she still looks good. Yeah, most of the girls Gino is around, or I shouldn't say, I never saw him around any girls. I don't even know why I said that. Like I say, his car only fit two people. When I rode with him, and I don't know if he drove like he did to run you off. So you didn't want to drive with him anymore, but ooh, it was memorable.
You mentioned earlier, I'm going to bring it back to the Von Erichs a little bit. My partner and I always have this discussion. He felt if David had lived, he had thought that David would have become a great champion and WCCW would have really carried on. I, on the other hand, thought the more marketable player in the game was Kerry.
Kerry.
Yeah. What were your thoughts?
You're going to say that. The true champions like number one, Ric Flair. it takes a special kind of person. Harley Race takes a special person to be that champ. David had that it factor like Harley Race and Flair and Bockwinkel. Kerry, not so much. Loving to death, great guy, not so much. David, like all of us, used medication on a day-to-day basis to get by. David didn't do hard drugs. David took stuff to sleep. He went from Japan to America, flights. They might have taken something to go to sleep. That's the only thing David did. He would have made a better champion. He made a more reliable champion. He'd have been there. And at that time, Fritz was very influential in the NWA. And kind of think David was his ace in the hole. David would have done fine. He's a great guy.
Sadly enough, his body cut out before, because I felt like he was built for the business much more than the other brothers were. He was really built for the business.
I don't agree. Kevin always had a beautiful body.
Oh, they all did. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that, like you said, David was willing to take the trips, and that it takes a special kind of person to deal with the business commitments that are involved in professional wrestling. And that's what I mean by when I say that David was the one.
You're 100% right. That's what would have happened. They tried to stick the belt on Kerry for a minute.
Right.
And that quickly backfired.
Yep.
It's kind of like you get elected to be in an office, a mayor. Well, all of a sudden you're elected mayor. Well, all the public and everybody's looking at you. Kerry would not have been able to stand that. You make Kerry the champion, fine, but you're exposing him to too much public information.
Yeah,
that is unacceptable. David, didn't do anything wrong.
Well, John, here's the question then, and so it's the lingering question that's been going on for 30 years. Did David overdose, or did he actually pass away from an intestinal infection?
David did not do enough drugs to overdose on drugs. He did not do them like 90% of the wrestlers who did them. He did not do them for, recreational purposes. He did them to survive and get from town to town. He didn't, he did not overdose. If he overdosed, it would be like for the same reason I would overdose right now. If something was hurting on me so bad and I couldn't stop it, I would probably overdose. So you don't know what he was hurting, whether it was in anything, the word intestinal, to me, that sounds painful. But he was a sweet guy.
Let me ask you about Kevin. Kevin, especially a lot of us wrestling fans, unless we watch a lot of shoot interviews, always seem to be the angel of the group. Is that the way Kevin was, or was Kevin just in the same mode as the rest of the boys?
No. They were all the same. They were all the same. You know, they were all into their, you know, like any superstars. You know, you're gonna have ups and downs, weeks, good to bad. They had their ups and downs, you know, but they were good kids. They didn't hurt anybody. They never crossed the line. I never knew them to cheat on any of their women like I did. I looked up to them for that. They respected their women, treated
Do you
them
think you'll
well.
ever do you think you'll ever bring yourself to watch the movie The Iron Claw, or is this just like I just don't want to see this?
Honestly, I hadn't thought about it.
Okay. Fair enough.
I don't know.
You,
A lot of things I watch, I like to do Facebook and watch short things, films on Facebook. But sometimes I'll watch stuff and it's kind of depressing, you know. So,
John,
I'm sorry.
what would you say is it? I know that it's hard to pinpoint one particular thing, but what would you say is the biggest contributor in your line of work to the downfall of wrestlers? Is it steroids? Is it drugs? Is it the rock star lifestyle and the illusion that you get carried away with your gimmick? What is it that has caused so many wrestlers to cut out way before their time in your line of work?
Well, you know, there's only in the movie business, in the entertainment business, there's not hundreds of entertainers. In the wrestling business, like 700 people work for for Vince McMahon. You know, you're just dealing with different numbers. You know,
Is there anything which you could change if you could change it? Obviously, I mean, the traps in the business are obviously great.
so say it again. I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Is there anything you would have changed if you could have going back?
Personally, absolutely. I'd have never left Dusty Rhodes. Would have been my biggest and largest mistake of my whole career. I should have stayed with him and Jim Crockett.
John, can you elaborate on that a little more, though? Why? Because you did go to one of the more famous, groups, and one of the greatest territories in the history of pro wrestling.
Like I say, I was in the Omni, headed to Portland, Oregon. Dusty Rhodes didn't know me from Adam. Watched my match with Magnum TA. Came in the dressing room, in the showers. Hired me on the spot. Told me, don't worry about going. Here I am headed to Portland, Oregon. I'm in Atlanta, Georgia. And I got to go all the way to Portland in my convertible with my car packed. And I'm told by Dusty Rhodes, you got something, baby. And I want to be a part of it. I want to change your name. I want you to come to work for me. As my, I shouldn't have. I felt a little bit of obligation to the Freebirds because they trained me and they offered me a job. So I jumped on it. And that's my only regret, was leaving Dusty. When Dusty said, you're going to be my new superstar, baby. and I left that. I messed up.
John, when Michael and Dusty eventually moved on to work for Vince, and they had positions of prominence too. At any point, did you reach out to them and try to get work with the company, or was it just
No, when I was working in for UWF, I had a automobile accident when I was working with Eddie Gilbert, and we had done the switch where Eddie and I were booked together. Well, we worked together a couple weeks, and I was in a head-on collision that broke both my legs and put me out of the wrestling business. Should have been permanently, but that was pretty much my end. It all came down to an automobile accident.
Yeah. Tell me a little about Herb Abrams. What was your relationship with him?
Never heard of him.
Oh, you're talking about UWF with Gilbert. You're talking about, right?
It's not. I worked for Bill Watts.
Okay, Bill Watts, UWF.
Louisiana.
Okay. Gotcha.
I never met no Herb. I know you're talking about because seeing him on Vice.
Right.
But never met the guy. Kind of wished I would have now.
Yeah.
I bet he knew a few strippers, John.
You ain't kidding.
Yeah.
From what I saw, we got along pretty well.
John, we're gonna be respectful of your time. I'm gonna hit you with something called the Pharaoh's final question. But my final question to you is this: you've had an illustrious career, known from wrestling fans worldwide. What do you feel your biggest accomplishment in professional wrestling was?
Having sex with Missy Hyatt.
That you know what? I'm not gonna listen. That's a pretty good deal there, man.
Couldn't have done any better. Hey, and after Missy, my two wives, and that got better, but it started with her, and it just went up from there.
John, I got to tell you, when she was on our show, she clearly said this. She made a mistake not staying with you. She said that on the show.
And she was right. And we just both were at a time where we both thought we didn't need each other. And, when it's too late, we could have, we were kind of at that time, it was the Vince takeover thing was going on, and kind of hearing stuff about them wanting Missy and I together. And,
that would have been huge, man. It would have been huge.
I don't know. I wished I'd have had a more mature attitude about Vince McMahon, especially after, of course, I'm still dear friends with Michael and talk with him often. I wished I'd have. He's told me great things about Vince McMahon. I've never met the guy. But I'll repeat it. I fucked up. Should have shown him respect. Went and worked. Missy and I could have gone and worked for him. Done our thing. We did what we were told. We didn't care. Missy and I didn't we didn't come up with that gimmick. We didn't come up with any of that. Our bosses did. And we would have done exactly what Vince would have told us to do. And we would have done it well. Unfortunately, I let my mouth for the 100th time overload my ass. Ain't the first time. It's going to happen again.
That's why we love John Tatum. Jimmy, give John the Pharaoh's
Well,
final question. I want to also say, John, again, thank you. It's been an honor to have you on this show. You are an icon. And you know what? You've meant the world to many professional wrestling fans and these two guys right here. So thank you again. Jimmy, it's all you, buddy.
well, it's kind of been answered. I was going to ask him, how would you like to be remembered? But Mike, apparently, it's for
Well,
having
Jimmy, can
sex
I just ask a question? From
with-
1 to 10, how good is Missy Hyde in the sack, John? I have to know.
Uh-oh, here we go.
A solid 10.
Damn.
Solid.
Fucking lucky man,
Yeah.
dude. Lucky man.
I would like to lie.
Oh, boy.
I just have 0. Never. I mean, women like sex, and she was definitely one of them. And you know, one thing about her and I, which I've never done a book or told, you know, we were together and did town after town. We looked for strange places in these buildings we would go in for us to have quick sex. And I really remember that a lot. Missy was very yes, she was in. We had sex in some great buildings and some great.
All right, what's the best place you guys had sex now? Now you're going into it. I got to know. What is the craziest place you had sex?
It honestly was so much, but I will say this. We were in a town, and I can't say where it was. I think we were working for Jarrett somewhere. And the craziest thing that happened to me was there was this girl, and you can tell why you're working in the ring. You know, you can make contact, and God, the way it was for me was I could actually talk to women and set up a date while I was wrestling. But I got this girl who I saw she was interested in me real fast. And I told her, I said, while I was wrestling, I don't remember how it happened, but I told her, I said, okay, in my dressing room, I was the last match, so there wasn't going to be anybody else in the ring, or in the dressing room. And Missy had her own dressing room. Well, I told this girl, come in my dressing room and I'll do you in the shower. Anyway, blah, blah. I'm having sex with this girl in the locker room shower from behind with the shower going on us. And in walks Missy. The way the shower was set up, she couldn't see it. So I got away with it. That's a real memorable one. Outside of that, it was all pleasure. But yeah, I almost got caught that one time.
By Missy Hyatt. John Tatum, you are one lucky dude, man. I got to give you credit.
You're right on.
You're my hero, Tatum. You are now officially my hero, brother.
I'm blessed. I'm blessed. And to still have her as a friend. And to be honest, I mean, she's got a great boyfriend, love him to death. Matt, great guy, great for the business. But if I needed her, she would drop anything for me. Has always done that, always been there for me. Her and her family. I was close to her mother and dad. They were great people. And she's always been there for me.
All right, Jim, let's let Mr. Tatum go. You want to hit him with the Pharaoh's final question, Jimmy, man?
Well, it's no longer a final question. It's basically now just, I was going to ask him what he wanted to most be remembered for, but after hearing his sexual escapades, it doesn't matter what he says, because now this is how I'm going to remember him.
I would like to be remembered for the guy who, in house shows, when we weren't on television, when we would be in house shows with Missy, every night I would set up a high spot where I would grab Missy from behind and take her shirt and her bra and lift it over her head and take her and show her to the whole front row, everybody on the front row. I'd show her shit would be over her head, and I would show this whole building Missy's tits. And it got nothing but better at house shows. Every house show picked up because every night when we weren't on TV, everybody in that building would see Missy Hyatt's tits.
Oh, Mike was there, right, Mike? You'd be paying for that.
Unfortunately, I wasn't. That's what sucks.
Oh.
Now I'm really upset.
We got
Now I'm
ripped off
upset over
again
this
on the
whole
East
interview.
Coast.
I blew it,
There you
Johnny. I blew it. All right, Pharaoh, hit him, brother.
Didn't do it on TV, just did it at house shows.
That's it.
So I was like, man, they're going to pay all this money to sit ringside. They're going to see Missy's tits.
That's what I'm talking about.
Hey. So I made sure it happened. And
you and Missy would have been gold in WWE. I'm convinced of that, Mike. That's for sure.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, John, thank you for being with us tonight. That was a great time. We had a great time with you. Thank you for coming on.
Anytime, it's nice to meet you guys.
Yes, Mr. Tatum, and thank you, and thank you for all you've done for the industry. And I only wish you the best in the future. Good luck to your son. Good luck to your family, and thank you for such a candid interview, sir.
Nice meeting you guys.
Pleasure.
Goodbye.
See ya. John Tatum there, my friend.
Yeah, that was great. Unfortunately, my connection stayed. I was getting worried early in the beginning of the show. I was
two great shows. Mr. Anderson was fantastic.
Yeah.
John Tatum, a legend. A legend. Yep. Real quick before we go, many people have said it on the chat. I know you knew going into this, but I just wanted to give you a few moments to talk about the passing of the great Ace Frehley, lead guitarist for the band Kiss. Ace had a falling out with them numerous times, came back. Incredible talent, incredible guitarist. He's had his issues just like every human being. But anyway, Jimmy, no one's a bigger Kiss fan than you, and no one's a bigger Ace Frehley fan than you. I don't care who claims they are. They're not even close. The floor is yours, Mr. Pharaoh, and send us out when you're done, as I will sit and enjoy what memories you have of the great Ace Frehley.
Oh, well, what do you really say when a huge piece of your childhood says goodbye? I can't really feel much right now, other than it's awful. And I had heard he had fallen. Usually this is a very telling sign when you hear someone has taken a fall or whatever it is, whatever it may be. I'm amazed that Ace made it this far. He was the quintessential rock and roller with the partying and all the recklessness and craziness. But from what I've gathered, he's a fairly sweet guy. I was very, very disappointed in the fact that Kiss recently had a final show at Madison Square Garden over the past year and a half or whatever it was. And New York City, where it all began, when they all had modest jobs, those four young kids, that formed Kiss in the New York area. And in the last show, they didn't have Peter and Ace. And now I'm wondering, I'm like, ooh, that might have been a big mistake, Gene and Paul. You really needed to get that done. Everybody wanted to have that done, but now's really not the time for that. But I can't help but think about it. Ace Frehley was one of the greatest guitarists that ever walked the planet. Unfortunately, because of the imagery of Kiss, it was always the actual brilliance of his guitar work got convoluted in the image. He was one of the absolute greatest, as my cat does a death-defying licking of his corn shoot on air. He was one of the greatest lead guitar players, and if you look back at the 70s, of course, the Jimmy Pages and Tony Iommi's and Richie Blackmore's get most of the love. But Ace Frehley is not necessarily right there with those guys. I don't want to get carried away, but Ace Frehley was one of the absolute greats of his craft. A tremendous lead guitarist who took 6 albums to finally have the courage to sing. And when he did, he sang Shock Me, a great song. I don't want to get long-winded about Ace, but it's just a very, very sad day for anybody who grew up loving Kiss. And he's, to me, it's different, but it's like a Hulk Hogan. It hurts horribly, and Kiss was that much of an impression in my childhood. Today, Ace, you shocked me. One of the all-time greats. Peace, brother. We love you forever, man. Thank you for everything you gave us. We wanted the best, and we got the best. You've been watching Monte and the Pharaoh. Later.
Couple things I want to cover, Jimmy.
Yeah.
500 level has now improved on the M&P code. Now go to MP30 for 30% off. Jimmy, I got to tell you something, right? I was at the beach again, 500 level. If you guys haven't looked at the shirts, right, go to the website. It's incredible. And I got to be honest, right? So it was a little chilly today. I brought the dogs to the beach. I was off work for the Jewish holidays,
today.
right?
It's cold.
It wasn't cold,
Yeah.
but
Well,
I have from 500 level, I have a Roman Reigns sweatshirt. Now, usually sweatshirts are not always the nicest fabric, unless I'm into really nice fabric because I just don't like things up against my skin. So
Yeah.
usually I'll get thinner type of shirts, but this is a heavy sweatshirt. The fabric, unbelievable. And you're going to get a deal at 30% off, Jimmy. I mean, my God, it's a no-brainer, guys. I am telling you, once you get one shirt from them, you'll get 50. I guarantee it. And they've got all the sports. Yeah, dude, tell me what you think of it, Jimmy.
They're so comfortable. I got to get a long sleeve now. I'm telling you, I got to, because it was chilly today, especially for a guy who's been in Panama City Beach the last 2 years. It was chilly today, and I love the material. It's so silky. Is that the right word for it? I don't know.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, dude.
It's so comfortable. So, yeah, I got to get myself some leveled long sleeves. That's for sure. 30%.
And again,
off,
it doesn't, they got plenty of wrestling stuff. They got baseball stuff. They've got football. They got everything, dude. MMA. They got it all, man. And I'm telling you, it's very high quality. Again, 500 level code MP30, 30% off. So if a t-shirt costs you $20, what's 30% off on $20, dude?
It's enough. 10 plus another 20% tacked on top. Not much. It's a steal. It's a steal.
I agree. I want to remind everybody too, the Monte and the Pharaoh show, hit the QR code, be willing to check out our shows on YouTube, where we got almost 24,000 subscribers. Go to our Facebook page where we're approaching 27,000 subscribers. And again, if you feel like donating to the show, please go to the Monte and the Pharaoh webpage, hit donate. Helps us bring in more guests. Trying to entertain Jim. We've got the big event coming up, so a lot of good stuff happening right now.